in reality, it is not the language of Mexico, but that of one of the many cultures that inhabited that territory before the arrival of the Europeans. I am specifically referring to Nahuatl, the language which interestingly reached its peak during the Spanish colonial rule, only to slowly and gradually decline afterward. Now there are more than 1.5 million speakers of this pre-Columbian language. Hello, I am Constantino de Miguel. Welcome to the Prime Group channel. Nahuatl is a language belonging to the Uto-Aztecan family, primarily spoken in Mexico. Its origin and development are closely linked with the rich and diverse history of various indigenous peoples and cultures of Mesoamerica, especially the powerful and influential Aztecs, also known as the Mexicas, who expanded their vast empire and with it, their beautiful and complex language, Nahuatl, throughout much of central and southern Mexico. Before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, Nahuatl historically originated in the northwest of Mexico and the southwest of the USA as a language. That is, the territory of the Uto-Aztecan peoples, approximately around 1500 to 2000 years ago. The migration of these peoples to the south, to the central region of Mexico, brought about the dispersion of the language. As different groups settled in various regions over a period of time, Nahuatl began to evolve and diversify into several dialects in different ways. During the height of the Aztec Empire, between the 14th and 16th centuries, Nahuatl became the lingua franca of Mesoamerica, used not only for administration and commerce, but also extensively in literature and religion, and beyond in various forms. The expansion of the Aztec Empire facilitated the spread of Nahuatl, which was spoken from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific coast, and from the center of the Valley of Mexico to the south of what is now Guatemala. With the arrival of the Spanish and the subsequent conquest of Mexico between 1519 and 1521, Nahuatl maintained its importance as a language of interaction between the Spanish colonizers and the indigenous peoples. The missionaries indeed learned Nahuatl and in fact even provided it with a grammar before such a thing actually existed in English or French. The conquerors and their Tlaxcaltec allies relied on Nahuatl speakers and interpreters, such as the famous, influential, well-known, and notorious Malinche, to extend their control over all of Mexico, allying with numerous peoples eager to shake off the oppressive and bloody tyranny of the Aztecs. For their part, the missionaries used that language in order to spread their religious teachings to the indigenous population. This led to the paradox that Nahuatl actually reached its peak in the first decades of Spanish domination, when a rich Nahuatl literature was written in Latin characters, including historical, religious, and poetic documents. The Spanish greatly valued the Nahuatl language after the conquest, significantly choosing to use it instead of imposing a linguistic change. Due to the significant challenge of learning the hundreds of diverse and complex indigenous languages that existed in New Spain, they focused primarily on the Nahuatl language, establishing numerous schools to educate the indigenous nobility in various subjects such as theology, grammar, music, and mathematics. In 1570, King Philip II of Spain established Nahuatl as the official language in New Spain in order to further improve interaction and communication between the Spanish and the natives. During that time, considerable and significant autonomy was allowed in the local administration of indigenous communities, making Nahuatl the de facto language, both in its written and spoken forms, and substantial. In many towns in colonial Mexico, Nahuatl was indeed a respectable and very respected language, as much or even more than Spanish. Everything began to change in the 18th century when Spanish was indeed imposed, although without marginalizing Nahuatl, which was actually used even in the courts of justice until Mexico's independence. With the so-called independence, the different governments actively promoted Spanish as the primary and official national language of Mexico, while the country significantly modernized and undertook major agrarian and economic reforms in various ways, particularly under the rule of Porfirio Diaz. Well, despite the widespread use of Spanish in Mexico, which is indeed the main Spanish-speaking country in the world, Nahuatl has survived and still continues to be used by around approximately 1.5 million people in Mexico, therefore making it one of the most spoken indigenous languages in the country. However, it at the present time faces challenges, such as linguistic discrimination, cultural assimilation, and the lack of Nahuatl educational resources and other related issues. UNESCO and other international and local organizations are working to preserve and revitalize Nahuatl and other indigenous languages, promoting their teaching and dissemination, such as Nahuatl. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in learning Nahuatl among Mexicans of various heritages and backgrounds, as well as among scholars and enthusiasts of linguistics and Mesoamerican culture and traditions worldwide. We have to say that this language has undoubtedly and significantly left a great legacy in Spanish, with words like chocolate, tomato, and avocado truly reflecting the profound cultural influence that the Nahua peoples have had in Mexico and throughout the Hispanic world in various aspects.
Itlan way Tamachtiki Hermilo Herrera, Tamachtiki Hermilo Kenintica.
Kualita sa kamati. Waname wan kaninang kate.
San Cuacualiton.
And that concludes our review of what was the most important indigenous language of Mexico. If you want to know more, here is the address of our very own blog on Prime Voices. If you like this content, please give us a like and definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and absolutely share your thoughts and opinions about the present and future of this fascinating Mesoamerican language. See you soon.